recording. Cool. Okay, so we're going to go through a solution to Boggle Part 1 together. It's just for the recording. Okay, so I am going to clone it down to my desktop. We should be pretty familiar with this process at this point, right? So I'm not going to quiz everybody on it. I'm going to cd into my desktop, and I'm going to do git clone. And, oh, did I already do this yesterday? Git clone. There we go. And now I'm going to cd into Boggle and open it in VS Code. Do you guys want me to change it to white? Is that easier to see? Black is better?
Yeah.
Oh, I like you guys. Cool. So we'll keep it black now. You can put the lights down if you want. So let me get my thing here. And let's blow this up. All right. So what does Boggle ask us to do first? Step 1, the basic board. This first iteration of our board will not care if it's possible, blah, 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 blah. So essentially I think maybe we'll just skip and do the second part. But the first thing I want to do, the first thing I need to accomplish is I just need a board and I need to print my blank board, right? I need to be able to do that. So let's focus on that. Let's not worry about letters or any of that right now, okay? So how many spaces are on my Boggle board? 16. So I think what I'm going to do is just use an array with 16 things in it. So I'm going to say self.board. Let's really quick review what we have right here too. So I have a class Boggle board, right? What is my init function? What does this do? What does this mean? What happens? Someone break this down for me like I did as a child.
It creates an instance every time the class is called. Yeah,
every time we call in the class, we call this init function, right? So anything I put in here, any variables I set will get set for that instance of the class. Not the class as a whole, just that instance. I can run a function in that class if I wanted to, right? And it'll run as soon as I create the new. In fact, we'll experiment with that as soon as I create the new instance. So when I create a new instance of Boggle board, I want there to be a board, and I'm going to make it. And I think I can do a little. I think I can just do this. I think I know I can. And I think that that's going to give me an array of 16. Now, how can I confirm that? I can print it. So let's actually just say that print. So I think this will work. So now what I'm saying is when I save that. When I instantiate a new class, I want to create when I instantiate a new object, instance of the object, create a board with an array with 16 underscores in it, right? Then immediately print that board, right? So let's write this code and see if we can get this to work. I'm going to save it to a variable because we're going to do some other stuff with it. We'll say Boggle board like that. We shouldn't have to do anything else actually, right? Because we're instantiating it. So as soon as this line 12 runs, it's going to create a new board and then it's going to print that board. Okay, so let's see. And it won't look pretty because we didn't make it look pretty, but it should just be an array. And there we go. So we have an array with 16 things, right? 16 underscores. Cool. The next thing I want to do is we're going to write a separate print board function. I might do this a little bit differently than you did. That's fine. Because I want to print my board like it is here. So I want it to print all nice and neat like this. Cool. So let's write a new function for that, and let's call it def print board. And you see, I can't call it print, right? Because there's already a function named print. Just as a little aside, we need to be careful that we don't use words that like Python already knows. We have to come up with our own, but that's fine because we're going to be really specific. Say print board. and that has to take in self. Any function I write that's going to be an instance, a function that's attached to the instance needs self. And so now I want to print, basically I want to print every 4, right? I think that's how it is, right? So I want to print every 4. So I have a way that I'm going to do this. Did anybody find it? How do people solve this problem?
I've seen it in a couple ways. I've seen people move through it and print at, the index required, I. I've also seen people just use one print statement and slice the array from 0 to 4, comma, 4 to 8, and so on, and put a new line character in the print statement itself.
Let's
slice it every 4.
that. I think that's what we're going to do ultimately. But I want to talk this is a good opportunity just to talk a couple of things about arrays and the ways that we can access things in arrays. So let's actually go into the Python REPL and do a couple of experiments just to make sure that we know what we're doing. So I'm in the Python REPL. I'm going to create an array and just call it, in fact, you know what? Let's just use this whole thing. Why the hell not? Cool, so now I have that exact array, right? So if I just want the first 4 things in the array, does anybody know what I do to do that? I don't know if we've talked about this yet.
Brackets, 0, whatever you want to end on.
Yeah, I think it's inclusive of 4. We'll find out. So did we talk about this notation specifically? I don't think so. So we know that if I want the first thing in the array, this isn't going to be that exciting because everything's exactly the same. But if I want the first thing in the array, I can just give it 0, right? But if I want a range of stuff in my array, and this is different in JavaScript, but the idea exists still in all languages. I can ask for like a subset of the array. In Python, I can give it where I want to start and where I want to end. So in this case, 4, and it'll give me 4, right? Yeah, Christine.
And then if you do it again with the sequence, then it would say how many times you want to jump. Like you want to go that 0, 1 more.
Yeah. No.
After the 4. And you can jump however many you want. Like it's like plus out of 2 or whichever.
Oh, really? Wait,
Yeah, put 2 in
I'm
there.
super confused now, but
Yeah,
I'm
put
excited that I'm about to learn a new thing.
Yeah.
Put 2 in there.
Put a 2 here?
Yeah, print it.
Now print it.
And if you use a -1, it goes back.
Yeah. So you can do double reverse with that.
So is this saying, give me 0 to 4, but then give me the first 2?
Count by 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's showing you 1 and 3.
So you can go like
Does the
from
index
0. You actually don't
Let's
need
do
to
this.
0.
Hold on. This is amazing, but let's do it with an array that isn't all the same stuff. All right, so B has, I'm going to say 0 to 4.
Yeah.
And then count by 2s.
Yeah.
Whoops. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. I think I can just do this.
Is it a semicolon?
Oh,
That's cool, right? Yeah.
that is cool.
But you also need to include the 0. The 0 is set by default.
Or do B bracket ::(-1) bracket.
Oh.
Yeah. And then that gives it a reverse.
That'll reverse it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Screw function.
Cool. All right, so actually we might be able to do this a little bit. Okay, so with this new knowledge, well, now I'm trying to think. Do I want to do? I'm going to show you how I did it, but then we might be able to use this to do it a different way if you guys want to show it. So what I want to do is I basically just want to print like lines of 4, right? I could use that new line. So if I want to print a new line, like if I put /n in a string, it'll give me a new line. The way I did it was just to do 4. I think I did I and then space. In how did I do this? Range. Yes, thank you. Range, and I said 0, comma length of self.board, and then I can pass a third argument here and say give me every 4, basically, is what this is going to do. So let's print what this means. Right now I'm just going to print I, because I is all I care, or yes, I'm going to print I, because I is all I care about. So if I print this, so I have to run this. What's up? Oh, thank you. I don't know why I did that. Makes sense. So let's do, what, did I get rid of that print? Okay. So I have self.board, and we'll do b.print board. We're going to get
self-board at I, or what do you do?
Well, right now I just want to show that I is going to be every 4th number, but apparently I did that wrong because cannot unpack an iterable int. What am I missing here?
What's the space?
What's that underscore space on line 8?
Here?
Yeah.
So isn't it index and then also the element? I was just calling it like a space.
Oh,
There's
I
no
see what
element,
you're saying.
Right, because we didn't enumerate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's enumerated.
There we go. My bad. I was thinking about enumerate. Cool, so we're looping through a range. We're actually not even touching the board yet. We're just looping through a range, and we're using the board to get the max value that we want, the length of the board. And then now we're counting by 4, so you can see that that's how it printed out here, right? So then what did I do? I did self.board at, I think I did I know what I did. I did I plus 4.
Couldn't you just put the colon and then I? Because it'll go from 0 to I, then 0 to I, and 0 to I.
Yeah, but isn't this going to just print over? Let's see. Yeah, that's going to keep printing it over. You see what I mean? We need each subset. So I'm going to do what I had before, which was I plus 4. So I will be 0 the first time, and it'll print up to 4. The next time I will be 4, and it will print up to 8, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that should give me my 4. And then to turn it into a string, there's a function called join, which we have to call dot join, right?
Yeah.
Which looks so ugly.
That's plus 4.
I thought. Okay, so what are we saying here? We're saying create a loop that loops the amount of times that my board is long, but instead of doing each one, do it in not groups of 4. That's not, just skip, or just do multiples of 4. Just do multiples of 4, which is this third argument I can pass to range. So that's how I'm going to access each row in the board, and then from there I have join, which takes an array, a list, and basically joins it together into a string, right? And the syntax for that is to have like an empty string and then dot join and pass it the array that you want to do that. So ultimately we should end up with kind of a nice board. So it's okay, right? So cool. We're about
If
halfway
you go
now.
on just a space in those single quotations, does it make them all?
Yeah, they'll all be next to each other.
The join's awesome. So split and join.
Yeah.
There you go.
I use split all the time.
Split is the opposite of join, right? So if you want to take a string and split it into an array or a list. Cool. So we have our board. So what's the next thing that I need to tackle here? We're just going to kind of do it all at once and jump to the second part. So if I think about how an actual Boggle board works, right? We actually have one right there, right? So I have this like tray, that is my board. And then I have a bunch of dice. I have 16 dice, right? And when I shake it, each individual die could land in any of those each individual spaces. So that's one part of the randomness, right? Is like where on the board does the die land? it could land in 16 spaces. The other part of that randomness is that die has 6 sides. So it could land with any side facing up. So we have 2 elements of randomness that we have to take care of. Does that make sense? Where does it land, but then also which letter is pointing upward when it lands? And that's how we want it. If we want to really like simulate the board, that's what we would need to do. Now we could fake it by just telling Python, hey, we don't even need this, just put random letters into all the spaces at random times, right? But we're not really simulating the real world way that the board works. And we are running a risk of actually getting like a bunch of A's in a row because randomness is not always as random as we want it to be, right? So if we simulate dice and we simulate them actually falling in the spaces, we can come to like kind of, we can create a better board. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna copy this. So thankfully, all these rows are gonna symbolize a dice. And whoops, we'll go here. So when my board initializes, I'm just gonna say self.dice equals, and I'm gonna make an array of dice. And hold on, it's gonna take me a second to format this, which I know is very boring, but gotta get done.
Are you just pressing Control A and down?
Pressing Control and then just clicking on the line.
That's awesome.
And then you just press backspace.
So now I have this cursor, I can do whatever I want with. You press Control and the line you want to be on. Yeah, big time saver. Whoops, but don't do that. All right, cool. And then I can just click anywhere to get rid of it. Okay, so this should be, so this is my array. And each row is going to symbolize a dice, right? Or a die. I'm going to keep getting that wrong. Sure. Okay, so we're not going to worry about the QU yet. So let's leave that for the end. So now I'm finally on my shake method. And what I'm going to want to do is, let's actually see what I want to do. So I need to loop through my board. So actually, first I need to scramble all my dice, right? Because I don't want them to be. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to write some pseudocode. First, I'm just going to shuffle my dice so that they're in a random order, right? So I'm going to get some kind of randomness by shuffling my dice. After I do that, I'm going to loop through my, let me blow this back up too, sorry. So I'm going to shuffle my dice. I'm going to loop through my board, and I think if I shuffle the dice, I'm just going to match index, right? So if I take this array right here, and I shuffle it so that all of these rows of strings are at different indexes, then from there I can just say, as I loop through my board, I can just say, take whatever is at index 0 here and put it at index 0 on my board because I've already shuffled this. Does that make sense? Right? Then I need to say, so loop through board, grab dice at index. Then I need to grab random letter from that dice. From dice, insert at index in board, and then I think like if letter is, we'll just do this now, Q, replace with QU. How's that look? All right, let's do it. So what did I say? The first thing I want to do is scramble my board. There's a couple of different ways to do this. Let's actually look it up. Yeah, I think that's where we're gonna end up.
Random.shuffle.
Random.shuffle is gonna do it, but we're gonna have to let's take a so like shuffle array Python. You can see I already was doing this yesterday. NumPy we don't want to use right now. We'll get into that later. Shuffle array randomize Python. Random.shuffle. I love it. That looks very good. This is about the level of research that I did yesterday. And then I mean I'm pointing that out to be like, oh, that looks like it might do it. I'm just gonna test it, right? And let's actually test it because some of these functions work in different ways. Sometimes you'll run a function on an array and it will return you a new array, right, that has been messed with. But other functions will mess with your original array. And so that was kind of screwing me up a little bit yesterday because I assumed it was returning me a new array, but it is not. And I'm going to show you like how you should be testing these things as you use them, because that was my fault. I made an assumption, and that is usually that's a road of frustration that's easy to go down when you're just making assumptions, right? And you need to learn to go back and test them. So I learned this lesson the hard way yesterday, and I'm going to show you. So we go in here. So it looks like random is just part of the Python library, so I don't have to do anything except import it. So in my REPL, I have access to all of Python, but I will have to import things that aren't in there on their own. So I'm going to import random, and then I'm going to make an array. And now I have confirmed that this is an array. And so it looks like if I do random.shuffle and pass it the array. So my instinct yesterday was to do sorry, I keep pressing the wrong thing. Yeah, random.shuffle, right? But this was not working for me because it's not really returning anything. It's randomizing it in place. So what I really want to do is random.shuffle and then A. Cool. Now it didn't return anything, right? But if I check the value of A, it's shuffled now, right? And I can run this over and over and over again, and now it'll keep shuffling. Oh my God, did it shuffle it back in order? That's so crazy. That's insane. That was really weird. Wait, is it only shuffling it? No, it's shuffling it. It's shuffling it. That was weird.
Yeah,
right. That was really
insane.
crazy.
That's 4 factorial possibilities.
Okay. So,
Still 24 possibilities.
okay, so we have the shuffle, right? So if I look down at my pseudocode, that's the first thing I want to do, right? So that's going to be my first line of code. I'm just going to do random. Oh, first I need to import random.
Could you bring the board down? It's like just how it is now.
I sure can. So the board.
Don't you have to do anything install random?
No, random is part of. So there are some things that are like part of Python, but Python doesn't load them automatically. So random is one of them. There's a bunch that will.
Unit tests.
Unit tests. We have to import unit tests, but we don't have to install it. That's part of Python. It's confusing because like some things we will be like Django is not part of Python. We'll install that. Yeah. Holly, what was your question? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to see the board, like if you printed the board now.
Just print it right now?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right here. And it broke, so that's it. Why did it break? Oh, because I don't have a password. Cool. Cool.
So it's still gonna look like that.
Well, until I call shake. So when I'm going to call shake, which is going to shake the board and put a bunch of dice in it, and then we're going to print the board again, and there will be a bunch of letters in it. Yeah. Okay. What am I doing here? What was I saying? Oh, okay. So random.shuffle self.dice. Right? So now I'm going to shuffle my dice. Then I want to loop through my board for space in board. Oh, I want my index though. I need that index. So for I, comma, space, and ward, and enumerate ward.
Josh, where is your
Hold on, 2 questions. Go ahead, and then I'll let you.
where's your dice stored at? Like, where's the variable saved at? And okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, I basically the same question. I probably did this yesterday, like creating a global variable. It seemed like if you created a variable just within one method, then it wouldn't be accessible in other methods.
Anything I create, any self I create in the init is going to be accessible everywhere. But I have to put self in front of it, otherwise it won't. Okay? So,
Why are you putting comma on 134 after the I?
and 34.
Different space, she's asking.
To enumerate.
So it's going to be index, and then this is going to be the actual thing from the, but actually, do I need that? I just need the index, I think.
Couldn't you just do board from 0 to 0 or 0 to -1 or just leave it break is equal to shuffle.dice at 0 to the length of your board instead of looping? You can just do a direct copy over.
So you want to copy all of the dice?
Well, just from
board?
0 to I guess what is it 3 or 4 rows? From 0 to 3. So it'll be self.board from 0 to -1 is equal to dice from 0 to 4. Or 0, yeah, 0 to 4. No, so you're going to have to put, yeah, the brackets.
Is equal to what?
Self.dice from 0 to, I guess, 4, because that'll be the first 3 rows. I wonder if that works. Instead of looping, you know?
It did not seem to work.
Okay,
No.
so all these things, I don't even know how to use enumerate. All I did was like make a new array with a random value from each dice.
That's exactly, I mean, that's
And then,
basically
like,
what we're going to do.
Yeah. And then I just so the first index 0 would have a random number from the first dice all the way to the 16th dice.
Right.
And then I just shuffled that. And it was like just a few lines of code that was done.
There are a bunch of different ways to do this.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to use it. And I don't know what the type of code you're trying to use.
Why didn't it work? All the 16 characters.
Because it's loading, it was loading like these whole things, these whole strings. Yeah. So what we need to do. All right.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm trying to remember how I did this. Okay. So for I and blah, 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 blah. I want to say, letter equals, yes, self dot dice at I, right? So self dot dice at I is going to be this, and I need a random one from that. So there's a couple different ways I can get a random thing from the string. You just come up with a random number and then call it. I could shuffle them and then just always pop off the last one. I think I'll do that. That'll be a little bit easier. Do both of those make sense though?
So
If I shuffle it and just pop off the last one, it'll always be different.
is the first time you do random dot shuffle, so right there in shape, the first time you do it is picking one random line of the 16?
No. It's taking all of these lines and shuffling them up.
Like, yeah, but still
Yeah.
as a line. And then the second time you do it, it's mixing up the letters.
Exactly.
Got it, okay.
Like, yeah, it's literally like moving this down here, back up here, like that. Yeah. All right.
Can you just put letter equals random dot shuffle with self dot dice at I in parentheses?
Here,
Yeah, just where you have letter equals.
can I do?
Can you just put random dot shuffle and put in parentheses self dot dice at I? Where it opens for now.
No, I think I have to shuffle it first and then pick the letter from it. So actually what I need to do is say, this is getting a little messy, but we're just going to push through it. Random.shuffle, self.dice at I. So that's going to shuffle it. And then I'm going to do self.dice at I. Let's just do 0. We'll grab the first one. Does that make sense? All right. So now I have my letter. Let's just do the Q thing right now. If letter equals Q, I'm just going to say letter equals QU. I think with a space? No, without a space. I don't know. We'll deal with the spacing in a second. And then I am going to say self.board at I equals letter. All right. This looks okay. Questions?
You go over the letters equal self at I to I. I know what you're doing, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know what you're accessing there.
This one right here?
Yeah, because you're getting the I index and you're getting the first char.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so self.dice at I is going to be 0. So it's going to be all of line 8, then all of line 9, then all of line 10. These will be in a different order because we shuffled them. So that's bracket 1, that's I. And then since we shuffled that row, which I'm pretty sure will work, we'll find out. I'm always just going to grab like the E, the A, E, right? But these will all be shuffled up. I don't know. Let's watch this blow up or work. We'll watch it blow up. All right, let's see. What did we do wrong? Blah, blah, blah. We don't shape, random, not shuffle. I don't think I can shuffle my dice. String object does not support item assignment. What? Line in shuffle. Doesn't like my shuffle.
So doesn't like your shuffle. See, so random that shuffles self dice is a list at I.
Sorry, 1 second. Let's test. Let's.
I think you just don't need I.
Yeah, but I think also you can't shuffle.
I think I can't shuffle a string. That's what I'm gonna look at right now. So random dot shuffle. Hello.
I think you can.
No, you can't do it. So how did I do this yesterday? I can't remember.
But do you really need to shuffle? Oh, I guess you do.
You do need to shuffle the dice. Well, the other thing we can do is just pick a random integer. So let's just do that. So let's say, yeah, like that roll is good. Yeah, roll equals range. Is it range? No, it's random in. It's random dot rand in. And then I want it from 0 to 6, I think. And then
No, it's in inclusive.
so it's 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just want to put roll. Thank you. All right. I think this will work. Maybe, I think this is actually what I do. Who cares? All right. Sweet. Let's that space back. There we go. Look at our random board. Sweet. The QU is a little off. I'd have to mess with the spacing, but you can see that it did do the QU.
You can, for letter, you can say plus space.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then put letter equals Q space.
Yeah. Let's just assume this. There's one. There you go. See? That looks good. Okay. Are there questions about Boggle board? Or classes or object-oriented programming so far? Yeah.
Just about the variable stuff.
Sure.
So if above for the dice, if you adjust declare dice without self. Yeah. So if you had just done dice equals whatever, then in order to access it, you'd have to put that dice variable like outside.
That's what I did.
Yeah, you could make it a class variable. You could totally do that. The reason I didn't is because we're shuffling it so much. I figured it should be unique to the instance.
Yeah.
Because then otherwise you're going to shuffle it for each instance. But you could.
If you put it there, then it's probably better to make like a random list of 1 through 16.
Well, I guess yeah, like multiple dice.
That's exactly. Yeah, that's what I did too.
Yeah, there's other ways to do this. This is not the only way to do it by any means.
But if you define a variable inside of a method and you use self when you define it, then you can access it in any other method.
Yeah, then you should be able to, as long as that method, but see, like, so this is where you got to be careful, right? So this runs immediately. So it creates self.board and self.dice, right? If I made up a new variable here, self.cool equals great, it would not make self.cool until I ran print board, right? So if you're trying to access this before print board gets run, this variable won't exist. That's why we usually, not always, but we usually define our instance variables that we want to use in the init, because then they're guaranteed to get created.
That's like local and global stuff.
It's a class code. The self dot anything is in class.
So any self thing will be any variable you declare with self will be, once it's declared, will be available throughout the instance. Sure.
I had trouble creating a test for this.
Oh yeah, you asked about that yesterday. Let's do one quick test for this. I'm going to say right now, testing print statements is kind of hard and annoying, so we're going to skip that. But we will at least test that.
I just tested if it got it right.
Yeah, let's just test that it has an array of 16 things, just to get something done. We'll do that really quick, and then we'll take a break.
I want to see the format.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty simple. There's two ways we can do it. It's pretty much the way we had it before. So we'll do Boggle spec.py, and I don't remember the unit test thing, so I have to copy it. Yeah, it's import. Let's see if we can remember. Import unit test. No. Unit test, thank you. And then I make a class.
No, you have to put from Boggle.
You gotta take the file which you tested
Yeah.
under it.
No, underneath. Yeah, right there.
From
From
Boggle
Boggle board.
underscore board. And then from
Import
class.
in-
Yeah,
Yeah, import Boggle board. Yeah.
cool. So then I want to do class. I don't.
I did Boggle.
or something you make up with tests.
Something you can do here in the import statement that's really cool. I love it. It's when you're doing multiple things that get confusing. You can put import Boggle board as whatever the heck you want to call Boggle board. You can say as board, as game, as whatever you want. And you can use it as that. So it pretty much renames it for you inside that test script.
Yeah, like import Boggle board as game like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's just keep it at Boggle board for now. Okay, so one thing I can do is I can just do def. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I need that. What is that thing at the bottom? Damn it.
If.
Oh,
it's-
if.
Do you guys remember it?
Yeah,
You guys are geniuses.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
If
Underscore name. Equals,
main,
Yeah.
Equals
String
string.
main.
just like that, underscore. Yeah.
And then the dot, yeah, and then unit test dot main. Call it, yeah.
And then
That's it.
that's it. Okay, cool. Sweet. So let's say test blank board. Okay. So one thing we can do, like I said yesterday, we can write any code we want. So I imported the whole class. So I can just create an instance of the class for this test. And say like game equals Boggle board. Boom. And then what is it? It's self assert equal Oh, this one I don't. And then
Almost equal. What?
what does that say? Oh, almost.
What kind of test is that?
So equal.
Well, I guess now actually
Why?
that
That
makes
makes
sense. That makes
I
sense.
just,
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Floating point values are really hard to compare. So that makes
Or-
sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just hilariously
what
sounded.
scheme that?
1 second. So this is the state of our board. Like when we print it, we change it, but ultimately the state of our board will always be this array. So I'm just going to hard code it in here right now. Okay, so I make a new instance of Boggle board, right? Boggle board right here. Boggle, any instance of Boggle board is going to have a board property and a dice property. So we have access to these. Maybe I didn't make this clear yesterday. We have access to these instance variables within the class. We can also call on them outside of the class, or like on an instance of the class by doing dot whatever, right? It's like a property kind of. So game.board, when I create a new Boggle board, since I'm not shaking it, it should just give me this blank board. Does that make sense?
Yep, yep, yep.
Cool. Let's run this test and see if it works. Oh my god. What do I want to do? What do I call Boggle spec? Double equals. Cool. Ran one test and it passed. Okay. So that's one way I can do it, and I can create the instance in every test. Another thing I can do is there is a def setup, I think. Self. And I could say self.game equals Boggle board. And now this self.game is accessible for all my tests. So if I want to use the same one, then I just come down here and say self.game.
Then you can use self.game.dice and check and see if.
Yep. Yes.
So then anytime you run any test, if you are including
Self.game.
run the Boggle board.
Yeah. Now you want to be careful with this. Usually you want your tests to be isolated, right? You don't want one test to be able to affect the other. So you wouldn't really do this, depending on how you were testing, right? It's probably better to just instantiate and then if I wanted to test like, oh, that it returns a shuffled board, I would just do game. Let's get rid of this. And then I would do game.shuffle. And then I would just, or what was it? Was it shuffle? Shake. Game.shake. Oh my god. So I would create a new board, game.shake, and then I would just assert equals, and then, I don't know, I would write this test to say, like, it wouldn't be equals. I would just assert, like, it returns an array with a bunch of strings or something like that. You know what I mean? It would be a more involved test. But I can run all this code before I do my assert. Does that help?
Yes.
Cool. Yep. Question.
Couldn't you also, like every random number generator, or at least most of them, have a seed number that they randomize with? If you use the same seed number and compare it against that, like saying you see like 1, 2, 3, whatever you want, and then you print out that what it's supposed to be, and then you can compare against that. Because random generators work off of a seed, which isn't so random. Really hard to replicate randomness.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you could run these tests, right? And testing randomness, there's a couple of different ways around it. But the main thing is just this is how we would set up a test for a class. And then I would probably go down and just test every method that I had on my class. That would be cool. All right, let's take a 15-minute break. Come back at 10, and we will talk about